South African President Ramaphosa has concluded his testimony at the Zondo Commission. The Zondo Commission is a public inquiry to investigate allegations of state capture, corruption, fraud, and other allegations in the public sector during the Zuma administration. Let's take a look at a quote here from Ramaphosa. For a sitting president to come to a commission such as this one, a commission that has established, some people say it's unheard of, but we felt it was good to come both as president of the governing party as well as the president of the country. Interesting. Still in South Africa, South African Airways Plane Maintenance Division is cutting jobs to help navigate the crisis that's gripped the air travel industry throughout the coronavirus pandemic. They didn't give any numbers, but supposedly, according to a union member, it's about 60% of the workforce that is being cut with respect to the technical arm. And of course, it's been over a year since a flight was carried out by SAA. More aviation news. Mango Airlines, low-cost arm of state-owned South African Airways, was cleared to resume flying after resolving a dispute with the country's airports over non-payment of fees. The carrier agreed with the airports company, South Africa, to make a partial payment on what it owes and commit to ways to settle the remaining debt, according to a statement from the ACSA earlier this week. All Mango flights had earlier been suspended after it was blocked from using the nation's airports, including the main hubs of Johannesburg and Cape Town. Joining us to discuss further, CEO, Alpha African Advisory, Sanyade Okoli. You're very welcome. Good morning to you.
Morning. On
Ramaphosa's testimonial before the commission, what do you think? You deal with investors. What do you think they'll make of that for a sitting president? And I guess he was patting himself on the back, but I want to get your take on how what that does for perception of the country.
I think it's definitely a positive signal. I think the first thing to remember is that Ramaphosa was there this time as president of the ANC party. Next month, he will go as, head of the government.
Right.
But for now, is heading the ruling party. And you have to admit, what it suggests is that the government, despite all the previous allegations, which is why you have this commission on corruption, state capture, etc., they are now willing to subject themselves to some level of accountability. And if you think that for investors, one key concern, especially vis-a-vis investing in a lot of African countries, is rule of law, this suggests that increasingly they will find that the rule of law is followed in a country such as South Africa.
Great. You've talked a lot about enabling business environments and so on. So where would rule of law rank on a wish list of foreign investors based on what they've seen?
It would be very high up there because bottom line is we all go into business knowing that we're taking a risk and knowing that things could go bad. What you want is the confidence that there is that safety net so that when things do go bad, you actually have some level of recourse. And if you think that business is done, we execute agreements. If those agreements essentially people cannot be held to those agreements, then it really just makes everything shaky.
Great point. Now, I want to move to South African Airways, which I think is the most discussed topic between you and I, you coming on the show. There are actually some folks who actually thought you were South African.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I have to clarify. You are Nigerian, right? I have to clarify. Yeah. I know. So here's the thing. This now is the technical side saying that there are job cuts. Is there any hope for this airline at all?
Well, let's put it this way, Reuters.
Yeah.
Government's committed to a rescue package of about $720 million US.
Right.
They've already expended about 520 of that amount.
Yes.
Government will not be spending such large amounts of money if they didn't think there was hope.
Okay.
The second thing to look at is that they have actually also been in discussions with potential strategic investors.
Okay.
Because they believe that SAA is sufficiently important. Remember, we were talking about national interest.
Right, yes.
It's sufficiently important to South Africa for them to do all they can to rescue the business.
Okay. Now, every time we bring them up, we always talk about the unions. They didn't give a number. The SAA technical assistance folks didn't say how many people, but then up pops a rep from the Solidarity. I learn about a new union in South Africa every time I do research on these news, on these headlines coming from there. But this is another one, the Solidarity Union saying that, it's 60% of the workforce, it's about 2,000 jobs, and this is not going to work. So, are we expecting more resistance from unions if this is going to follow through?
I think by the very nature of unions, yes, you will expect some level of resistance. Otherwise, the union members will wonder what the union leaders are doing.
Right.
But the reality is, if we are all being very pragmatic, SAA is the largest client of SAA Technical.
Right.
And they haven't been flying, as you said, for over a year.
Right.
SAAT is already struggling to pay salaries. We all know that, I should say, of that $700 or so million, about 180 million of that is to go to subsidiaries such as SAAT and Mango.
Right.
So we already know that there are difficulties. So SAAT is saying, look, we need to restructure this business to ensure that we remain a viable entity. And invariably, that will come with job cuts.
Gosh. All right. You just mentioned the subsidiaries. Mango, right? They were blocked from access to airports because they were owing fees. I mean, with aviation, it's just one headline after another. Is it safe to say that at this point, aviation is the biggest casualty of the pandemic? Or, I don't know, music concerts and cinemas right up there. But
I think what it is safe to say is that from a long-term standpoint, aviation is likely to be one of the most impacted sector, because we have to look at how we've changed how we do life, how we do business. Last weekend, I virtually attended the engagement of my niece.
Well, congratulations to her.
We know how it's changed how we do business in terms of using Zoom and et cetera, and more virtual meetings. But it's also changed how we engage with life and engage with each other. But what we have seen over the period of time is that the leisure sector tends to recover faster than the business sector.
Right.
So with business, we found that, after the World Trade Center attack, it took quite a few years. Business recovery lagged leisure, equally after the financial crisis. And when you look at the economics of airlines, it's actually the business class seats that have the higher margins.
Right.
So though they might not be the largest in number, but a lot of the profitability comes from the business class seats, which is mostly subscribed to by business flyers.
Right.
So we do expect the long-term impact. Also, so many of them have had to borrow significant amounts of money to remain in business. They have to repay that with strained finances and several other issues. But yes, long-lasting impact we do expect.
Well, now, hindsight is 2020. It's easy to now say, there are problems. Why do you have a subsidiary and so on? But I guess if we go back to however long they were set up, 2006 or 2008 or so, what do you make, just a minute ago, what do you make of the business model of SAA having a low-cost subsidiary, Mango Airlines?
I think in reality, a lot of people have been actually trying to say, what do we make of this? Because Mango does not report its financials separately from SAA. So though SAA have been saying that Mango generally has been profitable, there are people who've questioned how profitable it really has been because they don't see the numbers.
Right.
And when you compare it to some other low-cost carriers, they struggle to see how Mango could have been generating the levels of profit that SAA has claimed it has.
Interesting. Are you optimistic about long-term survival for aviation?
It's going to work because you and I still need to travel.
Exactly.
But it's just that we'll pay more for it in all likelihood.
Sanyade Okoli, CEO, Alpha African Advisory, thank you so much for joining us.